All right, let's just jump right in. We need to talk about that feeling. You know exactly the one I mean. That little sinking sensation in your gut that maybe, just maybe, you're not doing enough. Or you aren't enough. But here's the twist. Instead of looking at some new productivity hack, we're going to look back, way, way back, over 2,000 years, to an amazing story about a really proud god who had a pretty huge wake-up call.
You know that incredible high you get when you've just nailed a big project? Or you've finally hit a personal goal? Or you've just made something you are so proud of? It feels awesome, right? In that moment, your world, that project, that accomplishment, it feels like the entire universe. And honestly, it should. You've done something real.
But then, it happens. You pick up your phone, you start to scroll, and suddenly that world of yours, which felt so massive and important a second ago, it just starts to shrink. You see someone else's world, and it just looks bigger, shinier, way more successful. And that incredible feeling of pride, poof, it gets replaced by that old, familiar sting of comparison. Now here's what's so wild about this. That feeling, it is not a new invention. It's not just an Instagram thing or a LinkedIn thing. Nope, this is a deeply, deeply human experience. And a philosopher, Zhangzi, told a story about this exact problem about 2,300 years ago that you're going to see is more on point today than ever before.
So let's get into the story. It's this beautiful tale about perspective, and it stars two very powerful but very, very different gods.
So, this fellow right here is our main character, He-Bo. He's the god of the Yellow River. Now, the story goes that during the big autumn floods, his river would swell up and get so ridiculously wide you couldn't tell a cow from a horse on the other side. And seeing all this raw power, He-Bo, well, he got a bit of a big head about it. And I mean, he seriously believed his river was the greatest thing on the planet. He'd look out at these huge rushing currents and think to himself, yep, this is it. All the beauty, all the magnificence in the entire world, it's all right here. It's mine. He was, the king of his own very large, very wet castle. So just bursting with all this pride and confidence, He-Bo decides, you know what? I'm going to take a little victory lap. He starts traveling downstream to the east, just following his amazing river, ready to admire the full, jaw-dropping extent of his own magnificent kingdom. And that's when everything changed. He gets to the end of his river, he looks up, and for the very first time in his life, he sees the North Sea. Just this endless, horizon-swallowing, massive body of water that made his mighty, mighty river look like a tiny little trickle.
And He-Bo is just floored, completely humbled. He turns to the god of the sea and basically just spills his guts. He says, I've heard people talk about bigger things, but I always just dismissed it. I honestly thought I was the greatest. Now that I've seen you, I finally get it. I see how small I am. And man, if I hadn't seen this, I would have been a total laughingstock forever.
This moment, this total collapse of his ego, it opens the door for the real wisdom of the story. Because the sea god doesn't laugh at him. He doesn't gloat. Instead, he offers He-Bo a totally new way to look at the world.
And this is the core of it right here. See, He-Bo was living by river logic. For him, everything was about size. Big is good, small is bad. Comparison is how you figure out your worth. But the sea god comes in with ocean logic, which says, hey, it's not about your size, it's about your function. It's not about big versus small, it's about the fact that everything has a part to play. Your value isn't about being the biggest, it's about what you contribute to the whole system. This ocean logic is really just a way of explaining this key idea called the Tao, or the way. Just think of it like the natural, underlying flow of the entire universe. From this point of view, the giant ocean isn't better than the river, it just has a different role. In fact, the ocean needs the river. They're both essential parts of the same system. The sea god explains it beautifully. He says, look, you can't talk about the ocean with a frog who's only ever lived in a well. The frog's reality is limited by its environment. And then he praises He-Bo, saying, but now you've come out from between your own banks. You've seen the great sea, and now you can finally start to understand real wisdom. Okay, so, great story, right? But what in the world does a humbled ancient river god have to do with you scrolling through your phone? Well, let's connect the dots, because this ancient wisdom is actually a super practical toolkit for right now. So here it is, the Sea God's Guide to Modern Life. Step 1, appreciate your own current. Your job, your projects, your unique journey, that's your river. It's got its own power and its own beauty.
It's valuable all by itself, not because of how it measures up to something else. Step 2. Acknowledge the ocean. Yeah, there are always going to be bigger companies, more famous people, projects with way bigger budgets. See them, respect them, but get this, their existence does not make your river any smaller or less important. It is not a competition. And step 3, and this is the absolute key, remember that you feed the sea. Your unique flow, your work, your ideas, those are the fresh waters that the whole system needs. Without countless rivers just like yours, there would be no ocean at all.
So you see, the point isn't to start being a river just because you've seen the sea. That's ridiculous. The point is to stop judging your river by the ocean's standards. It's about figuring out your own purpose, your own direction, and knowing that your flow has value precisely because it contributes to something bigger than you are.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. We spend so much of our lives measuring how wide our river is compared to everyone else's, but what if that's just the wrong way to measure, period? What if your real value has nothing to do with how big your river is, but it has everything to do with the simple fact that you're moving, that you're contributing, that you are adding your own unique current to the world? What if the most important thing is just to keep on flowing?